The baseball bat trembled in Sarah Mitchell's hands as she stood on her front porch watching the black Mercedes pull into her driveway. Behind it came a sheriff's cruiser, its lights painting red and blue streaks across the faded siding of her house. Mr. Henderson stepped out of the Mercedes, his Italian leather shoes crunching on the gravel. He wore a smirk that made Sarah's stomach turn. In his hand was a stack of papers, eviction notices, foreclosure documents, the bureaucratic weapons of a man who destroyed lives for profit. "Mrs. Mitchell," Henderson called out, his voice dripping with false sympathy. "I'm afraid your time is up. The property has been sold, and we'll need you and your boy to vacate by end of business today." "That's impossible," Sarah's voice cracked. "We have 30 days. The law says what my lawyers tell it to say," Henderson interrupted, gesturing to the demolition crew pulling up behind the sheriff. "You missed last month's payment. Breach of contract. Now, you can leave peacefully, or," he glanced at the sheriff, who looked uncomfortable but dutiful. Inside the garage, 16-year-old Leo Mitchell heard every word. His knuckles whitened around the wrench in his hand. Around him, tools hung on pegboard walls, his sanctuary, his workspace, the only place where his hands could create instead of just surviving. On his workbench sat a business card, slightly oil-stained. He'd been staring at it for 3 days, wondering if he should use it. The card was simple, a phone number and a skull with wings. Leo pulled out his phone with shaking hands. He dialed. The voice that answered was a gravelly rumble. "Vandal? Mr. Thorne? It's Leo, the kid with the garage." Leo swallowed hard. "He's here, the landlord. He's trying to throw us out right now." There was a pause. Then, "Stall him for 10 minutes, Leo. Just 10. The line went dead. Leo stepped out of the garage, standing beside his mother. Henderson turned to him with that same condescending smirk. "Ah, the grease monkey. Tell me, boy, did you really think fixing lawnmowers was going to save this dump?" Henderson laughed. "This neighborhood is finished. In 6 months, this lot will be luxury condos. You and your mother are just obstacles to progress." "We have rights," Leo said quietly. "Rights?" Henderson stepped closer, his cologne overwhelming. "Rights are for people who can afford lawyers, kid. You're just white trash playing with tools. Now, get your junk out of my garage before." The sound cut him off mid-sentence. It started as a distant rumble, like thunder rolling across the plains. But it grew and grew. The ground itself began to vibrate. Henderson's smirk faltered. The sheriff's hand moved instinctively toward his weapon. Sarah grabbed Leo's arm. Then they appeared. The sky over Bridgewater, Nebraska had turned an ugly, bruised purple-green. Leo Mitchell stood in his garage doorway, watching the color deepen like a wound spreading across the horizon. The air was thick, heavy, pregnant with violence. The tornado sirens began their wailing song. Most people in the suburbs were already inside, doors locked, shutters drawn. The weather alert on Leo's phone screamed warnings. Large hail, possible tornadoes, seek shelter immediately. But Leo wasn't looking at his phone. He was looking at the interstate. A convoy of motorcycles, he counted 20, was heading down Highway 77, moving fast, but not fast enough. They were still miles from the nearest overpass, and the clouds were already starting to spit ice. Leo recognized the patches on their backs, even from this distance. The Black Ethel Guard Motorcycle Club. They were legendary in the Midwest. Outlaws, they said. Criminals. Dangerous men who lived by their own code. Leo saw something different. He saw chrome gleaming in the dying light. He saw custom paint jobs, probably worth thousands of dollars. He saw machines that were clearly loved, maintained with the kind of care that spoke of genuine passion. And he saw them about to be destroyed. His mother was at work, pulling a double shift at the hospital. The house was empty. The garage, a double wide that his late father had built before he died, was full of his tools, his projects, but no car. His mother's sedan was at work with her. The first hailstone hit the driveway. It was the size of a marble. It cracked against the concrete with a sound like a gunshot. Leo made his decision. He ran to the garage door and hit the button. The motor groaned, and the door began to rise. He grabbed a red shop rag from his workbench and ran out into the yard, into the wind that was now whipping with genuine fury. The lead bike, a massive road king with a paint job that looked like flames frozen in midnight, spotted him. The rider's helmet turned. Leo waved the rag frantically, pointing at the open garage. "In here!" Leo screamed, though the wind stole his words. "Get them in here." For a heartbeat, nothing happened. The bikes kept moving down the highway. Then the lead rider swerved. He gunned his throttle and shot across 2 lanes of traffic, up over the curb, and into Leo's driveway. The rest followed like a school of fish, moving in perfect synchronization. Crack, crack, crack. The hail was coming down now, no longer marbles, but golf balls. One struck the driveway and left a crater. Another hit the mailbox and dented it inward. "Move, move, move," Leo urged. The second-to-last bike slid in, a beautiful softail with purple metal flake paint that seemed to glow even in the dim garage light. Its rider, a woman with silver hair pulled back in a braid, gave Leo a nod of appreciation as she killed her engine. The last bike, the lead road king, skidded into the remaining space with inches to spare. Its rider stayed mounted, waiting. Leo ran to the garage door button and slammed it. The door began its descent just as the sky opened up completely. The sound was apocalyptic. Hailstones the size of baseballs hammered the driveway, the street, the roof. It sounded like the world was being torn apart by machine gun fire. Through the narrowing gap of the closing door, Leo saw a hailstone hit his mother's flower bed and explode like a grenade. The door sealed shut with a heavy thud. Silence fell inside the garage, or what passed for silence when 20 people were breathing hard and the roof was being assaulted by ice. Leo stood by the control panel, chest heaving, his t-shirt soaked with sweat and the first drops of rain he'd caught outside. He looked up slowly. 20 pairs of eyes were staring at him. The lead rider pulled off his helmet, revealing a weathered face with piercing blue eyes, gray hair pulled back in a ponytail, and a scar that ran from his left eyebrow to his jaw. He had to be 50, maybe older, but he moved with the easy confidence of a man who'd never lost a fight. He looked at his pristine gas tank, then at the garage door, where hail was hammering with the fury of 1,000 angry gods. Then he looked back at Leo. A smile spread across his face, revealing a gold tooth. "Well," the man rumbled, his voice like gravel in a cement mixer. "That was close." He extended a gloved hand. "Name's Silas Thorne. They call me Vandal. And you just saved about $400,000 worth of chrome, kid." Leo shook the hand, feeling calluses that matched his own. "Leo Mitchell. It's just a garage." "Just a garage?" The silver-haired woman laughed. She'd removed her helmet to reveal a face that was beautiful despite, or perhaps because of, the hard years evident in her expression. "Honey, that hail would have totaled every one of these bikes. Paint jobs alone would have been 50 grand to replace." Another biker, this one with a black beard braided Viking style, slapped Leo on the shoulder with enough force to stagger him. "Kid's got good eyes and quick thinking. Respect." The garage had become a cage, a hot, cramped, noisy cage that smelled of 20 different colognes, motor oil, and the sharp ozone scent of the storm outside. Leo suddenly became very aware that he was alone with a motorcycle club that the news regularly described as criminal, dangerous, and under investigation. His phone buzzed, a text from his mom. "Storm bad. Staying at hospital until it passes. You safe?" He texted back, "Safe in garage." That was technically true. "You live here alone, kid?" Vandal had propped himself against a workbench, looking around at the tools, the half-finished lawnmower, the scattered parts. "With my mom," Leo said. "She's working. Hell of a storm to be working through," the Viking bearded biker commented. "She's a nurse, ER. They don't really get to leave when the weather's bad." Something shifted in the room. The bikers exchanged glances. The silver-haired woman, her patch said Valkyrie, nodded approvingly. "Respect to your mom, then. ER nurses are tougher than most of the men I know." The storm continued its assault on the roof. Thunder cracked so close that the walls vibrated. Through the small window set high in the garage wall, Leo could see the sky flickering with lightning, great sheets of it, turning the world purple-white. "Could be a while," Vandal observed. He looked at his club. "Get comfortable. We ain't going anywhere until this passes." The bikers began to settle in. Some sat on the concrete floor, backs against walls. Others leaned against their bikes. One man, rail-thin with tattoos covering every visible inch of skin, produced a pack of cards from his vest. "Hey," Leo said quickly. "No smoking in here, please. My mom would kill me." He expected pushback. Instead, Vandal snapped his fingers. "You heard the kid. This is his house. His rules. Anybody lights up, you're walking home in the hail. The few bikers who'd been reaching for cigarettes stopped immediately. That was when the side door to the garage flew open. Sarah Mitchell stood in the doorway, still in her scrubs, hair wild from the wind. In her hands was a baseball bat, the aluminum one from Leo's long-abandoned Little League days. Her eyes were wide with terror as she took in the scene. Her 16-year-old son surrounded by 20 bikers in a garage full of motorcycles. "Leo," she said, her voice high and tight. "Get behind me. Now." "Mom, now, Leo." Vandal held up both hands slowly, making himself visible but non-threatening. He pulled off his riding gloves with deliberate care. "Ma'am, before you call the cops, which I'm guessing is your next move, let me explain what happened." "I know what you people are," Sarah said, the bat still raised. "I see the news." "I know what, Mom." Leo stepped forward, putting himself between his mother and the club. They were going to get caught in the hail. Their bikes would have been destroyed. "I let them in. It was my decision. Your decision to invite criminals into our home. Our decision to not let $250,000 of machinery get totaled," Valkyrie said quietly. She'd removed her leather jacket, revealing arms that were muscular and tattooed, but somehow less threatening in a simple black tank top. "Your boy didn't think about who we were, ma'am. He saw bikes about to get destroyed, and he offered shelter. That takes guts and kindness." Sarah's bat lowered slightly, but her eyes were still wide, still scared. "Mrs. Mitchell," Vandal said, and his tone was respectful, almost gentle. "My name is Silas Thorne. I've been riding for 32 years. I've been president of this club for 15. We're not here to rob you. We're not here to hurt anybody. We're here because your son, who's got a better heart than most adults I know, saw people in trouble and helped. That's it." The bat lowered another inch. "The storm should pass in a couple hours," Vandal continued. "The second it's safe, we'll be gone. You won't even know we were here. Except," he looked around at the bikes crammed into every available space, "except maybe you'll have some tire marks on your floor. We'll clean those up before we leave." Sarah looked at Leo. "Is this true? They're just waiting out the storm." "Yes, Mom. I promise." The bat finally lowered completely. Sarah sagged against the door frame, the adrenaline draining from her. When I saw the bikes in the driveway, I thought." "You thought your kid was being victimized," Vandal finished. "That's not stupid, ma'am. That's being a good mother." He gestured around the garage. "But look, 20 bikes, not a scratch on any of them, because your boy here played Tetris like a champion. He saved our rides." The Viking bearded biker stepped forward, his massive frame somehow less threatening now. "Ma'am, my name's Thor. Yeah, like the god. My parents were weird. And I've got a daughter about your boy's age. If she'd done what Leo did today, I'd be proud as hell." Sarah looked around the garage, really seeing it for the first time. The bikes were indeed pristine, arranged with obvious care. The bikers, while intimidating in appearance, were sitting quietly, respectfully. Nobody was touching her son. Nobody was threatening. They were just waiting. "I need a drink," Sarah muttered. "You and me both, sister," Valkyrie said with a slight smile. The storm raged on. 2 hours became 3. The thunder shook the foundation. The hail came in waves, periods of apocalyptic fury followed by eerie calm, then fury again. Inside the garage, an unlikely peace had settled. Vandal had called in a pizza order to Domino's, 20 large pizzas with various toppings. When the delivery driver arrived, terrified and driving through hail in his beat-up Honda, Vandal handed him $300 bills through a crack in the garage door. "The pizzas are $70, the driver stammered. "The rest is hazard pay," Vandal said. "You risked your life bringing food in this storm. Respect." The driver left with tears in his eyes. The bikers sat in a rough circle on the garage floor sharing pizza with Leo and Sarah. Conversation flowed surprisingly easily. Thor told stories about his daughter's softball team. Valkyrie explained how she'd been a paralegal before she started riding. A quiet biker named Ghost showed Sarah pictures of his grandkids. "So, what's your story, kid?" Vandal asked Leo between bites of pepperoni. "How did you learn to pack bikes like that?" Leo shrugged. I see how things fit together. Spatial reasoning, my teacher calls it. I'm good with my hands." "That's an understatement," Sarah said quietly. "Leo can fix anything. Lawn mowers, refrigerators, washing machines. When he was 12, he rebuilt our garbage disposal from YouTube videos." "You ever work on bikes?" Vandal asked. "Can't afford one to practice on," Leo admitted. But I read about them. Forums, manuals, whatever I can find online. How they work, how to fix them. I like understanding machines. As if on cue, one of the bikes, a Sportster near the back, suddenly made a concerning sound. Its owner, a wiry man with nervous energy, had been periodically trying to start it. Damn it, the man muttered. Something's wrong. It was running fine before the storm. Let me hear it, Leo said without thinking. The biker looked at Vandal, who nodded permission. Leo approached the Sportster like a doctor approaching a patient. He had the biker turn it over. The engine coughed, sputtered, almost caught, then died. Again, Leo said. Same pattern. Cough, sputter, die. Leo closed his eyes, listening. Then he popped the seat, checking the fuel line. He ran his hand along the carburetor, feeling for, there, he said. You've got a vacuum leak, Leo announced. Right here. See, he pointed to a small crack in a rubber gasket. It's pulling air where it shouldn't. That's why it almost starts, but can't sustain. Can you fix it? The biker asked. Leo looked around the garage. He spotted his toolbox, then rummaged in his junk drawer. He emerged with a stick of chewing gum and a roll of duct tape. The bikers watched in fascination as Leo chewed the gum, then carefully applied it to the cracked gasket, molding it to seal the leak. He wrapped it with a precision layer of duct tape, creating a temporary but effective patch. Try it now. The biker turned the key. The Sportster roared to life, running smooth and strong. The garage erupted in applause and laughter. Kid's a goddamn wizard, Thor boomed, slapping his knee. That's a $15 part, the Sportster's owner said, amazed. And you fixed it with gum and tape. It's temporary, Leo warned, but it'll get you home. Replace the gasket soon. Vandal was staring at Leo with an expression that was hard to read. Then he smiled, a genuine smile that transformed his scarred face. Leo, Vandal said slowly, how'd you like a job? Sir, we've got a garage, official club shop, about 40 miles north of here. Guy who runs it is retiring. We need someone who knows bikes and can think on their feet and won't rip us off. Vandal gestured around at his club. You'd be working on bikes like these every day, learning, practicing. We pay you, train you proper. Leo's heart hammered. I'm 16. I'm still in school. Weekends, then. After school. Whatever works. Kid with your talent shouldn't be wasting it on lawn mowers. Sarah had been listening quietly. Mr. Thorne, the offer, but you don't know us, Vandal finished. Fair enough. Here's what I propose. Give me your number. Let me send you references. You call them, check us out. The offer stands either way, no pressure. Your boy's got talent. Real talent. Shame to waste it. The storm finally broke around 7 p.m. The hail stopped. The thunder rolled away east. The sky lightened to a bruised yellow-gray. The bikers began the process of extracting their motorcycles from the garage Tetris puzzle. It was slower going out than in, requiring careful maneuvering to avoid scratches. Vandal was the last to retrieve his Road King. As he wheeled it toward the door, he spotted something on Leo's workbench, a red stamped envelope partially hidden under a shop rag. He pulled it out without thinking, then froze when he saw the header. Final notice of eviction. Leo, Vandal said quietly, what's this? Leo's face went pale. Sarah, who'd been chatting with Valkyrie, turned around sharply. That's private, she said. Mom, it's okay. Leo took a shaky breath. Mr. Henderson, he's our landlord. He owns a development company. He wants to tear down our house and 3 others on this block to build condos. He's been pushing us out. Pushing how? Vandal's voice had gone very quiet, very flat. We rent to own. Sarah explained reluctantly. We've been making payments for 8 years, but Henderson claims we missed last month's payment. We didn't. I have the receipt. But he's saying their system doesn't show it. And now he's calling it a breach of contract. He's demanding we vacate in 30 days, or he'll have us forcibly removed. And you can't fight it? Valkyrie asked. With what? Sarah's voice broke slightly. Lawyers cost money we don't have. Henderson's company has a whole legal team. We're trying to figure out where we'll go. Vandal pulled out his phone and took a picture of the eviction notice, including the landlord's name, the company, all the details. What are you doing? Sarah asked nervously. Research, Vandal said simply. He pulled a business card from his wallet, plain white with just a phone number and a small logo of a skull with wings. He handed it to Leo. Kid, if Henderson shows up before the 30 days are up, if he tries to force you out early, You call this number immediately. Understand. Mr. Thorne, I can't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm offering. Vandal's blue eyes were intense. Your boy saved 400 grand worth of bikes today. More than that. He helped 20 people who needed it without asking for anything in return. In my world, that means something. That means we owe him. Debts get paid. He swung his leg over the road king and fired it up. The engine's rumble seemed to vibrate in Leo's chest. You ride with us now, kid, Vandal said over the engine noise, whether you know it or not. The black Ethelgard MC rolled out of the garage in formation, their pipes thundering in a symphony of mechanical power. Neighbors who'd been hiding in their houses peeked out windows, watching in amazement as the convoy disappeared down the street. Sarah stood next to Leo in the driveway, looking at the business card in his hand. Do you trust them? She asked quietly. Leo thought about how Vandal had respected his rules, how Thor had shown pictures of his grandkids, how Valkyrie had been kind to his mother, how they'd sat on his garage floor eating pizza like regular people, because that's what they were, regular people who happened to ride motorcycles. Yeah, Leo said. I think I do. 3 days later, Leo was in the garage working on a lawn mower when he heard his mother scream. He dropped his wrench and ran to the window. A black Mercedes was parked in the driveway. Behind it, a sheriff's cruiser. Behind that, a demolition crew and a flatbed carrying a small excavator. Mr. Henderson stood on the porch, a thin man in an expensive suit with a smile that never reached his eyes. He was talking to Sarah, who'd clearly just gotten home from work. She was still in her scrubs, and she looked terrified. Leo ran outside. Doesn't matter what receipt you have, Henderson was saying. Our records show no payment. That's breach of contract. The 30 days notice was a courtesy. I've decided to accelerate the timeline. You have until 6 p.m. today to remove your belongings. That's not legal, Sarah protested. It's very legal, Henderson said smoothly. Sheriff Thompson, here has the court order. You can read it if you'd like. The property has been seized for non-payment. You're now officially trespassing. The sheriff, a middle-aged man who looked deeply uncomfortable, held out paperwork. Ma'am, I'm sorry, but I have to enforce this. The order is valid. We have nowhere to go, Sarah said, her voice breaking. That's not my problem, Henderson said, gesturing to the demolition crew. These gentlemen have work to do. I'm developing this lot and 4 others on this street into luxury condominiums. This neighborhood needs an upgrade. Your house is an eyesore. This is our home, Leo said, stepping up beside his mother. Henderson turned to him, and his smile widened. Ah, the grease monkey. Tell me, boy, did you really think fixing lawn mowers was going to save this dump? He laughed, a sound like ice crackling. You and your mother are white trash. This whole street is trash. But don't worry, in 6 months this lot will have a 3-story condo with granite countertops and a gym. Progress, kid. You're just an obstacle to progress. We have rights, Leo said, his voice shaking with anger. Rights. Henderson stepped closer, his cologne overwhelming, expensive. Rights are for people who can afford lawyers, kid. People who matter. You're nobody. Your mother's nobody. You're just taking up space that could be making me money. He turned to the demolition crew. Start with the garage. I want it down by. The rumble cut him off. It started distant, like thunder on the horizon, but it grew and grew. The ground began to vibrate. Windows rattled in their frames. Henderson's smirk faltered. What the hell is that? The sheriff's hand moved instinctively toward his weapon and stopped. His eyes widened. Sarah grabbed Leo's arm, not in fear, but in wonder. From the north, they came. Not 20 motorcycles this time, not even 50. 300 motorcycles rolled down the street in perfect formation, a wall of chrome and leather and thunder. The Black Ethelgard MC had brought friends, the Iron Saints, the Midwest Brotherhood, the Plains Riders. Every club in the region united. They filled the street, the sidewalk, the neighboring yards. They surrounded the house like a living fortress. Their engines idled in a symphony of controlled power that made conversation impossible. Henderson had gone pale. The demolition crew scrambled for their truck. The sheriff took a very careful step backward. The engines cut, one by one, until silence fell like a hammer. Vandal swung off his road king. He walked slowly up the driveway, his boots crunching on gravel. Behind him, Valkyrie, Thor, and a dozen other high-ranking members formed a wall. Mr. Henderson, Vandal said pleasantly, We need to talk about this property. Henderson tried to recover his composure. I don't know who you think you are, but this is a legal matter. You can't what? Vandal interrupted, still smiling. Can't stand on a public street? Can't visit our friend Leo? Can't express our concern about predatory lending practices? Predatory? Henderson sputtered. This is a legitimate business transaction. Is it? Valkyrie stepped forward, pulling papers from her jacket. See, funny thing, I used to be a paralegal. Still keep my hand in. And I got curious about your company, Henderson Development LLC. So I did some research. She handed the papers to the sheriff, who took them reluctantly. Turns out, Valkyrie continued, Henderson Development has a pattern. You target working-class families in rent-to-own agreements. You accept their payments for years. Then, right before they'd actually own the property, you claim a missed payment. Your system loses their records. You force them out, keep all their equity, and sell the land for development. That's slander, Henderson said, but his voice lacked confidence. It's documented fact, Valkyrie said. You've done it 17 times in the last 5 years. The Mitchells are number 18. Thor pulled out his phone, scrolling. Funny thing about the digital age, your company's payment processing system, it's cloud-based. And you know what cloud-based systems have? Backups. Independent backups that you can't manipulate. He turned the phone to show the sheriff. This is Mrs. Mitchell's payment. Processed on the 15th of last month. Confirmation number, timestamp, everything. It went through. His system shows it. He's committing fraud. The sheriff looked at the screen, then at Henderson, then at the 300 bikers surrounding the property. Mr. Henderson, I think we need to talk about this back at the station. This is harassment, Henderson snapped. I'm calling my lawyers. Call them, Vandal said. His voice was still pleasant, but there was steel underneath. While you're at it, maybe ask them about the Fair Housing Act, about fraud, about the 17 families you've already done this to. Ask them how that'll play in court when we bring every single one of those families in to testify. Henderson's face had gone from pale to red. You can't threaten me. Who's threatening? Vandal spread his hands innocently. I'm a businessman, Mr. Henderson, just like you. And I'm here to make you a business proposition. He pulled a briefcase from his saddlebag. He opened it on the hood of Henderson's Mercedes, revealing neat stacks of cash. That's $50,000, Vandal said. Cash. Legal, clean money from our club's treasury and contributions from our brother clubs. It's enough to pay off the Mitchells' remaining mortgage, with interest, and compensate you for your administrative troubles. You sign over the deed. You leave. And we forget this ever happened. This house isn't worth $50,000, Henderson said reflexively. No, Vandal agreed. It's worth about $25,000. The other $25,000 is what we call a go-away and never-come-back fee. His smile disappeared. Because, Mr. Henderson, if you don't take this deal, we're going to make your life very, very difficult. We're going to expose your fraud to every news station in the state. We're going to bring those 17 families to a lawyer, a very good lawyer who happens to owe me a favor. And we're going to bury you in lawsuits. We're going to protest outside your office. We're going to picket your other developments. We're going to follow you, legally and peacefully, everywhere you go. And we have time, Mr. Henderson. We have all the time in the world. The sheriff was backing away now, clearly wanting no part of this. The demolition crew had already left. Henderson looked at the money, then at the 300 bikers, then at Vandal's implacable face. This is extortion, he said weakly. This is business, Vandal corrected. Take the deal, or take your chances in court. Your choice. You have 30 seconds. 20 seconds later, Henderson signed the deed transfer. 10 seconds after that, he was driving away, his Mercedes weaving through the parted sea of motorcycles like a minnow fleeing sharks. The moment he was gone, the street erupted in cheers, engine revs, and celebration. Sarah Mitchell stood on her porch, holding a deed that said she now owned her house outright. She was crying, silent tears that rolled down her cheeks as she stared at the paper. Vandal approached her quietly. Ma'am, we took a liberty. The extra money we gave Henderson, that's going into a trust for Leo's education. Kid wants to be a mechanic. He should go to a real school, learn proper. The trust is irrevocable. It's his when he turns 18, no strings attached. Sarah looked at him, unable to speak. Your boy saved our bikes, Vandal said simply. More than that, he saw people in trouble and helped without thinking about who we were or what we looked like. That kind of heart is rare, ma'am. We look after our own. And Leo, he's one of us now. Leo stood in the driveway, surrounded by bikers who were clapping his shoulders, ruffling his hair, treating him like a little brother. Thor was showing him the custom work on his Harley. Valkyrie was explaining the legal details of what they'd just done. Ghost was already talking about bringing his bike by for Leo to work on. Sarah wiped her eyes and walked over to her son. She pulled him into a fierce hug. "You," she said into his hair, "are never allowed to scare me like that again." 300 bikers? Really? I only called one. Leo protested, but he was grinning. Vandal overheard and laughed. When one of us gets called, we all answer. That's what family does. He turned to the assembled clubs. Brothers, sisters, this calls for a celebration. Leo's garage is now officially under the protection of the Black Ethel Guard MC. Another cheer went up. Someone produced beer from saddlebags. Someone else started a grill. Apparently, people carried portable grills on motorcycles. Started playing from someone's Bluetooth speaker. What had started as an eviction turned into a block party. Neighbors who'd been hiding in their houses slowly emerged, curious about the noise. They found bikers grilling hot dogs, sharing stories, and treating the quiet street like a festival ground. One biker was doing tricks for the neighborhood kids. Another was showing an elderly couple his custom paint job. The sun set over Bridgewater, painting the sky in oranges and purples. The same sky that had threatened them with hail 3 days ago now looked peaceful, beautiful. Leo sat on his workbench in the garage, watching the party outside. Vandal came in carrying 2 sodas. He handed one to Leo and leaned against the bench beside him. "You did good, kid," Vandal said. "Not just today, 3 days ago, in the storm. You saw people who needed help, and you helped. No hesitation, no judgment. That's rare." "They were just bikes," Leo said. "No," Vandal corrected. "They were people's pride, their freedom, the machines we've poured our hearts into, and you valued that. You understood." He took a sip of his soda. "That job offer still stands, by the way. Our shop could use someone like you." "I'd like that," Leo said. "If my mom says okay." "She will," Vandal predicted. "But even if she doesn't, you've got 300 bikers who'll look out for you now. You need anything, you call. We answer. That's a promise." He held out his hand. Leo shook it, feeling the same calluses he'd felt 3 days ago. "One more thing," Vandal said. He pulled a patch from his pocket, a small one, different from the full MC patches the members wore. It showed a shield with wings. "This is an honorary patch. It means you're a friend of the Black Ethel Guard. You wear this, and every club in the region knows you're protected. Your family." Leo took the patch with trembling hands. "Thank you. Thank your mom for raising a good kid. Thank yourself for being brave enough to help when it counted." Vandal stood, stretching his back. "Now come on. Thor's burning the burgers, and someone needs to supervise before he starts a grease fire." The garage had been transformed. Where there had once been scattered tools and half-finished projects, there was now organization. Professional-grade lifts had been installed. A proper diagnostic computer sat on a new workbench. The pegboard walls were still there, but now they held specialized motorcycle tools, torque wrenches, timing lights, compression testers. A neon sign above the main door read, "Leo's Customs, Black Ethel Guard approved." Leo was under a road king, not Vandal's, but similar, adjusting the suspension when he heard the familiar rumble of pipes outside. Vandal walked in, followed by a man Leo didn't recognize. The stranger was about 60, gray-haired, wearing clean work clothes that had clearly seen decades of use. "Leo," Vandal said, "this is Jimmy Wrench Henderson. No relation to the other Henderson, thank God. He's been running our club garage for 20 years. He's retiring next month." Wrench extended a hand, and Leo shook it after wiping the grease off his own palm. "Kid," Wrench said, his voice rough but kind, "Vandal's been telling me about you. About the hailstorm. About the vacuum leak fix. About how you packed 20 bikes into a 2-car garage." "Yes, sir. Don't sir me. I work for a living," Wrench said, but he was smiling. "I hear you want to learn the trade for real." "I do," Leo said. "More than anything." Wrench looked around the garage, at the tools, the lifts, the organization. "You did all this?" "The club helped install the lifts and the sign, but the layout, the organization, that was me. Show me what you're working on." For the next hour, Leo walked Wrench through the Road King's suspension issue, explaining his diagnostic process, his planned fix, his reasoning. Wrench asked questions, hard questions that tested Leo's knowledge and problem-solving ability. Finally, Wrench straightened up and looked at Vandal. Kid's good, Wrench said simply. Rough around the edges, needs formal training, but he's got the instinct. He thinks like a mechanic, not like someone who just follows manuals. He turned to Leo. Here's my offer. I've got 1 month left at the club garage. You come in every day after school, all day on weekends. I'll teach you everything I know. How to diagnose, how to repair, how to deal with customers, how to run a shop. At the end of the month, I retire. The shop is yours if you want it. Leo's heart hammered. Mine. The club owns the building, Vandal explained. But we need someone to run it. Someone we trust. Someone who understands that when a biker brings in his machine, he's bringing in a piece of his soul. He grinned. You've already proven you understand that. So, yeah, you finish your training with Wrench, and the shop is yours. The club will cover the business expenses, rent, utilities, insurance. You keep the profit from repairs. Fair. More than fair, Leo breathed. Thank you. Thank you. Thank yourself for being worth the investment, Vandal said. Now, you want to close up here and ride with us to the club garage? Wrench can show you around, introduce you to the operation. Can I bring my mom? Kid, your mom is always welcome. Always. Saturday afternoon at Leo's Customs was always busy, but today was special. The Black Ethel Guard was hosting their monthly meet, and Leo's garage had become the unofficial gathering spot. Bikes filled the street, the driveway, the neighboring yards with permission from neighbors who'd become friends with the club. Leo was in the bay working on Valkyrie's Softail, which needed a new clutch. He diagnosed the issue in 5 minutes. The hydraulics were failing, and he was now knee-deep in the repair. How's she looking, Doc? Valkyrie asked, leaning over his shoulder. You've got about 5,000 more miles before you'd have been stranded, Leo said, pulling out the old clutch assembly. Good thing you brought her in when you did. That's why I come to you. You don't, and you don't overcharge. It was true. Leo had earned a reputation fast. Honest work, fair prices, and a genuine love for the machines he worked on. Word had spread beyond the Black Ethel Guard. Other clubs brought their bikes. Independent riders started showing up. Last week, a guy had driven from Iowa specifically to have Leo work on his vintage panhead. The garage door was open to the spring air. Inside, Thor was regaling some newer club members with the story of the Hailstorm, embellishing it more every time he told it. And there's this skinny kid, can't be more than 100 pounds, and he's directing traffic like he's landing planes on an aircraft carrier. Baggers left, Sportsters back, and we're all listening because somehow this 16-year-old knows exactly how to make everything fit. Sarah came out of the house, carrying a tray of sandwiches. She'd quit the double shifts at the hospital, now working regular hours. The trust fund Vandal had set up, combined with owning their home outright, had given her breathing room for the first time in years. Leo, she called, take a break. Eat something. In a minute, Mom. I'm almost done with this clutch. That's what you said an hour ago. Vandal laughed from where he sat on a bench polishing his chrome. The mark of a true mechanic, ma'am. They always say in a minute and never mean it. His Road King sat nearby, gleaming in the afternoon sun. It had been in for regular maintenance yesterday, and Leo had found a minor issue with the timing that Vandal hadn't even noticed. Fixed it free of charge. Family doesn't charge family, Leo had said, unconsciously echoing Vandal's philosophy. A younger biker, couldn't be more than 25, approached nervously. Leo, my bike's making a weird noise. Could you listen? Sure. Start her up. The young biker fired up his Sportster. Leo listened for exactly 3 seconds, then held up his hand. Your primary chain tension is off. Probably happened when you did your oil change. Did you check the tension afterward? The biker's face went red. I might have forgotten. No judgment. It's an easy miss. Leo grabbed his tools. This will take me 10 minutes to fix. $20 for labor. Man, the dealer wanted to charge me $200 just to look at it. The dealer doesn't care about your bike the way I do, Leo said simply. Pull her into bay 2. By the time the sun started setting, Leo had worked on 7 different bikes, eaten 2 sandwiches standing up, and turned down 3 separate offers to join various clubs as a full member. I appreciate it, he told the Midwest Brotherhood's vice president, but I'm not a rider yet. I don't even have my own bike. Yet, Vandal said pointedly. He gestured to a tarp-covered shape in the corner of the garage. Which brings me to something we've been working on. Thor and Valkyrie pulled off the tarp, revealing a motorcycle. It was a Sportster, older model, but it had been completely rebuilt. New paint, deep blue with silver flames. New seat, new grips, new everything. It gleamed like a jewel. "Happy early birthday," Vandal said. "You turn 17 next month. This is from all of us." Every club chipped in. Wrench did the rebuild before he retired. "We figured you needed your own ride." Leo stood frozen, staring at the bike. "It's yours," Valkyrie said gently. "Title's in your name. Insurance is paid for the year. You'll need to get your license, but we've got a riding course set up for you next weekend." "I can't accept this," Leo whispered. "It's too much." "Kid," Thor rumbled, "you saved our bikes in a hailstorm. You stood up to a predatory landlord. You've worked on every bike here at prices so fair it's basically charity. You've earned this 10 times over." Sarah was crying, happy tears this time. She'd been in on the secret, had helped pick the paint colors. Leo walked slowly to the Sportster, running his hand over the fuel tank. It was perfect, absolutely perfect. "Thank you," he managed. "All of you. Thank you." "Don't thank us yet," Vandal said with a grin. "Wait until you're riding in formation and you realize how terrifying it is to keep up with Thor when he opens it up on the interstate." "I resent that," Thor said. "I'm a very careful rider." Everyone laughed because Thor was notorious for speeding. As the sun set completely and the party moved into its evening phase, quieter now, just talking and telling stories, Leo sat on his new Sportster in the garage, not starting it yet, just feeling it. His bike, his shop, his family, not by blood, but by choice and respect. 3 months ago, he'd been a lonely kid fixing lawnmowers, afraid of losing his home. Now he was Leo Mitchell, proprietor of Leo's Customs, honorary member of the Black Ethelgard MC, and owner of a pristine Sportster. All because he'd seen people in trouble and opened his garage door during a hailstorm. Vandal appeared beside him, handing him a soda. "You thinking about that day?" Vandal asked. "Yeah," Leo admitted. "How everything changed." "Everything changed because you made it change," Vandal corrected. "You didn't have to help us. Most people wouldn't have. They'd have seen scary bikers and locked their doors. But you saw machines about to be destroyed and people who needed help. That choice, that one choice, set everything else in motion." He raised his soda can. "To choices, kid, and to the people brave enough to make the right ones." Leo clinked his can against Vandal's. "To choices." Through the open garage door, he could see the street full of motorcycles, the yard full of people who would become his extended family, his mother laughing with Valkyrie, teaching some kids how to properly check tire pressure. His garage, his family, his life. The storm had passed long ago, but the bonds it forged remained, strong as steel and twice as bright as chrome.